Witnessing sex was expected duty. But seeing as nobody wanted to actually see anything, we have to ask, what exactly were they looking for? And what did they do if they saw nothing? Wedding nights under scrutiny were often nights like any other. As darkness fell across northern France in 1386, a young woman named Odette sat before a mirror arranging ribbons and lace. Her suitor, Jean de Vernon, was a year older, taller, and in a few weeks he would be her husband. As their families gathered in the torchlit chamber, she knew there was no escaping the ritual. It was part of the system designed to monitor marriage, ensure consummation, and document it in case doubts arose later. She knew she would hear the scrape of chairs, the rustle of bedding, and then the summons. Without a word, Jean would enter the room. Her father and brother would usher him inside, close the door, and the entire household waited. In a culture that took little for granted, the wedding night was still considered private. Servants retreated, relatives gossiped, and the bride and groom were left alone. Until they weren't. As soon as the door opened, Odette's anxieties would melt away. Like many brides, she would have known her way around the rules. When the newlyweds emerged, Odette walked ahead, shielding her face. Her dress had been altered to allow easy access to her body. She would submit to inspection, expose her person, and prove that she had been touched. If all went well, the assembled company would disperse, leaving the happy couple to bed. For the record, though, this moment was never truly private. In fact, it was the opposite. The bride's compliance or refusal was noted by all. The ceremony might have been holy, but the result was everyone's business. A successful consummation meant that Odette had satisfied her duty, entered the mysteries of wedlock, and become the property of her husband. A failure cast doubt on everything, her family, the union itself, and if doubt lingered, it could poison the marriage until death. When a wedding night failed to produce proof of consummation, the resulting scandal could ruin reputations and bloodlines. Witnesses couldn't always see everything. Much depended on the size of the chamber and the design of the bed, but they saw enough. Sometimes that was enough to convict, and when they saw nothing, they could still swear to what they didn't see. Such testimony could break a marriage, a career, and even a life. If you want to know how far this rabbit hole goes, join us tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Part 2. Until then, keep watching. This is our channel. When we think of weddings, we think of love, commitment, and celebration. In medieval Europe, we can add a dash of perversion to that. Weddings were not just about uniting two people in love or two families through a union. It was a transaction, a public spectacle, and yes, a necessary step to producing heirs. Now, you would think the privacy of the bedroom would be sacrosanct. Think again. If the courtroom examinations were a nightmare, what followed was even worse. In medieval Europe, even your most private and vulnerable moments, your wedding night, could be turned into a stage performance for an audience. The consummation of a marriage was not merely an intimate act. It was a matter of state, law, and religion. Failure to prove it happened could unravel political alliances, annul unions, and ruin entire families. Privacy was not a right. It was a luxury nobody thought existed. Let's take the case of Henry VI of England and his wife Margaret of Anjou. Imagine the year is 1445. Margaret, a girl of just 15 years, is married to Henry VI of England. Their marriage is supposed to unite kingdoms, secure peace, and stabilize a dynasty. But none of that mattered if the marriage was not consummated. And to verify it, 23 nobles, clergy, and courtiers crowded into the royal bedchamber. They were not merely standing outside. They were inside, surrounding the curtained bed, straining their ears for sounds, peering for movement, waiting for proof of an intimate union. The Archbishop of Canterbury himself stood at the foot of the bed, blessing the act. Every rustle of fabric, every whispered word, every trembling breath was part of the ceremony. For Margaret and Henry, their most terrifying private act was turned into a public ritual, one upon which the fate of nations depended. This was not an exception. It was tradition. Royal and noble weddings across Europe were accompanied by ceremonies of public verification. Before the act itself, there was an undressing ritual. Imagine being stripped not by your spouse but by relatives and attendants while guests sang crude songs and mocked your body. The bride's female relatives would remove her gown piece by piece, commenting on her youth, her fertility, her worthiness. The groom's family would undress him with jeers and lewd jokes, reminding him of his duty. Every layer removed was a spectacle for the watching crowd, a grotesque parody of intimacy performed as entertainment and verification. Once stripped, the couple was led through halls filled with guests who threw food, herbs, and sometimes filth, supposedly for fertility. Drunk nobles would shout advice or warnings. Priests would bless the bed with holy water and recite prayers for quick conception. The bed itself was treated as sacred space, but its sanctity came with a terrifying requirement. Witnesses had to see and hear enough to confirm success. Curtains might shield the couple, but they were thin, and the shadows told their own story. Sometimes nobles would linger too long. Sometimes they would leave the bed unobserved. Sometimes they would sneak out to avoid the entire affair. But usually, and we have records to prove it, they saw enough. The infamous Spanish ambassador who attended the wedding of Catherine of Aragon and Prince Arthur of England in 1501 reported that 6 nobles, and yes, he himself, were present to ensure the alliance was sealed. Arthur, after the night, declared he had been in Spain and demanded ale, a crude way of assuring the crowd he had done his duty. Yet decades later, when Henry VIII sought to annul his marriage to Catherine, the question of whether that consummation had truly occurred was dragged back into court, and the testimony of witnesses was used as evidence. A single night haunted her for the rest of her life. We may find it shocking, but privacy was a concept that simply did not exist in medieval Europe. If you couldn't prove you had sex on your wedding night, you could be ruined, and the very people who condemned such acts were profiting from them. For more such intriguing tales from history, stay tuned. Behind the scenes, there was an economy of sin, a dark undertow to the public spectacle of the consummation ceremonies. The show put on for the gallery was one of total privacy and discretion, but in reality, the bedroom was just a stage. And when the king and queen had finished their parts, the audience could come in and watch the leftovers. How much privacy did these unions really allow for? How much agency did women really have? How much choice did men really have? The answer was none. None at all. And all around him, nobles bowed before God and king, consenting adults joining in a ritual as old as Christendom. But that was only the public scene, the part for the gallery. For behind those very cathedral walls, another, darker stage was already thriving. If the consummation ceremonies revealed how little privacy existed in noble marriages, the economy of sin revealed how shamelessly the church profited from the very desires it condemned. Welcome to the domain of the bishops, men who thunder from pulpits about purity, while secretly running sprawling entertainment empires, enterprises so vast that their revenues built cathedrals and armed papal armies. The hypocrisy is staggering. Imagine the Bishop of Winchester, draped in velvet robes, preaching on Sunday about the dangers of lust, about sin, and corruption, about the fires of damnation awaiting those who gave into their bodies. Now imagine that very same bishop the next morning reviewing ledgers filled with profits from his entertainment houses. 18 separate establishments across London's Southwark district employing more than 1,000 women, all paying taxes directly to his coffers. They were known as the Winchester Geese, women marked by law as both workers and sinners, branded with shame yet essential to the bishop's wealth. These establishments were not hidden. They advertised openly, with signs swinging in the wind, prices painted clearly for all to see. And above the door, the bishop's own coat of arms. Step inside one of these houses, and you'd find rooms carefully designed to accommodate customers, windows where women displayed themselves, and clerks calculating profits. This was not chaos. It was bureaucracy. Weekly reports recorded revenues. Inspections certified women as clean or diseased. And taxes were extracted with ruthless efficiency. In some houses, women paid extra fees to work on holy days, despite official bans. Sin was prohibited from the pulpit, but sanctified on the bishop's ledger, and the profits were immense. In modern terms, thousands upon thousands of coins flowed each week, enough to build a church every year, enough to pay mercenaries, enough to keep bishops living like princes. Even the great Winchester Cathedral, a monument of stone and stained glass, was funded not only by tithes but by the blood and sweat of these women. Every hymn sung beneath its vaulted ceilings was, in some sense, purchased with coin from the very industry the bishop condemned. And Winchester was not unique. Across Europe, bishops and even popes followed the same path. In Avignon, during the papal exile, a vast entertainment complex operated under the Vatican's direct control. Over 200 women worked there, with rooms reserved for visiting church dignitaries. Taxes from the operation funded papal campaigns and armies. In the German lands, archbishops controlled chains of establishments in multiple cities. In Seville, Spain, the cathedral's own entertainment quarter was connected to the sacred building by underground tunnels, so priests could visit discreetly. Everywhere, the pattern was the same. Morality preached, sin exploited, profit secured. The system was meticulous. Women required annual permits to work. They paid sin taxes weekly. They were examined by the bishop's physicians, who stamped them fit or barred them from working until bribes were paid. Guards patrolled the districts, acting as both enforcers and debt collectors, dragging reluctant customers back to pay what they owed. The bishop even offered retirement schemes, insurance for women too old to work. Though few survived long enough to claim them, the hypocrisy was justified with twisted theology. Augustine had once described vice as a necessary sewer in the city, foul, but required to carry filth away. Thomas Aquinas argued that by controlling these houses, bishops prevented greater sins, adultery, assault, chaos. By regulating lust, they claimed to protect morality. But the truth was simpler. It was about money. Cathedrals were expensive, wars endless, bishops greedy. Entertainment revenues were reliable and vast. To refuse them would have been financial suicide. And so the church industrialized sin. Bishops became CEOs of desire. They licensed bodies, taxed transactions, and punished those who worked outside their system. The very men who ordered humiliating fitness trials and witnessed royal consummations were the same men who counted profits from 1,000 women forced to sell themselves in the bishop's name. Imagine the contradictions in the life of one such woman. By day, she was preached to about purity, seated in a separate section of the cathedral, forced to listen to sermons condemning her work. By night, she returned to her room under the bishop's crest, serving the very system that damned her. If she failed to pay, the bishop's guards would drag her out. If she fell ill, the bishop's physicians would inspect her body like livestock. If she grew old, she was cast aside. Her life was consumed by the machinery of hypocrisy, her body the foundation of cathedral wealth. And this was accepted, not hidden, not whispered, public. The people of medieval cities walked past these houses, saw the signs, knew exactly where the bishop's money came from. It was not scandal. It was policy. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be discussing the shocking connection between love, death, and the sinister secrets of medieval medicine. In the year 1100, Europe is a melting pot of cultures, a mix of the old and the new, of science and superstition. But there's a storm brewing, a clash between the teachings of the church and the practices of physicians. You see, the church condemns pleasure, viewing it as a distraction from the true path. But physicians, especially those influenced by the teachings of Aristotle and Galen, believe that pleasure, particularly female orgasm, was essential for conception. This might sound contradicting, but remember, this is the Middle Ages. Logic often takes a back seat to tradition and dogma. Now let's shift our focus to the ordinary people of this era. Imagine you're a married woman of childbearing age. Your husband desires an heir, and you are expected to fulfill your role. But there's a catch. According to medical experts of time, you must experience sexual climax. Without it, you can't get pregnant. This might seem absurd, but it was a widely held belief. Male orgasm was encouraged and even celebrated, but female pleasure was a taboo subject, spoken about in hushed tones and hidden in medical texts under layers of euphemism. Women's sexual desires were considered sinful and dangerous, yet crucial for conception. This created a unique situation where women had a rare form of agency. They could take their husbands to court if they weren't helping them achieve their monthly release. And believe it or not, some women did just that. Medical texts provided instructions, recipes for oils and balms, even diagrams of devices to aid in female climax. Music was also recommended to set the mood, but there was a darker side to this. Confessors were encouraged to pry into a woman's private life during confession, questioning them about their sexual experiences. Those who couldn't prove they were having regular orgasms were labeled sinful. For women who didn't want to get pregnant, there were potions, paste, herbs, and even animal fats, anything to prevent conception. These methods were not only dangerous, but sometimes deadly. Lead, mercury, extreme diets, and even burying fingers in vinegar were common practices. Grave diggers frequently found bones with high levels of toxic substances, silent witnesses to the desperate attempts to control fertility. Women were dying, sometimes at the hands of their own husbands, in the pursuit of love, of babies, and most tragically of control. This is the story of medieval medicine. It's a world of darkness, of death, and of desire, where the quest for pleasure led to pain, where the desire for children led to murder, and where even the dead were not safe from the living. But this is just the first chapter in our journey through time. Join me next time as we continue to explore the shocking secrets of medieval medicine. See you next time. Welcome to my channel. It's the year 1348, and you are a Black Death survivor. Life is hard. Food is scarce, and death hangs around every corner. To make matters worse, you are a woman, and the only way to ensure your future is to prove you are a virgin. Welcome to medieval intimacy. Nothing is private, not your body, not your relationships, not even your virginity. In the name of God, the Almighty and the Most High, I sentence you to a bridal bed. Royal judges dress as God, and the Virgin Mary examine you to see if you are a virgin. This is what happened to Dame Alice, a young mother who survived the Black Death. Her ordeal will become a defining moment in medieval history. Across Europe, women were subjected to public rituals to test their virginity. In the medieval world, intimate acts are everybody's business. Royal weddings are public spectacles. The consummation of the marriage is witnessed by nobles. Bishops profit from the sacrament of confession, hearing the intimate secrets of people and selling their sins back to them for money. Physicians prescribe love potions to help people control their desires. During the Black Death, women like Alice took drastic measures to protect themselves. In the shadow of the church, secret rituals were performed. Grave diggers brewed potions and passed them off as holy water. Rituals were conducted with grave dust, urine, and even the heartstrings of animals. The church condemned such practices, but people were desperate. With safety nets gone and the threat of starvation looming, they turned to anything that offered hope. Driven to the brink, Dame Alice is forced to drink a dangerous concoction. She is not alone. Across Europe, people brewed their own love potions. Some used powders, others exotic herbs. Ingredients are mixed under the cloak of darkness. Love letters are burned and the ashes mixed into wine. Hair, clothing, or small personal tokens are stolen and used in rituals to bind the desire of another. Meanwhile, Dame Alice's ordeal continues. Her examination by royal judges has just begun. The stakes are high. Her reputation, her life, and the future of her child hang in the balance. As she faces the ordeal, we realize that privacy did not exist in the medieval world. Your body can be evidence in court. Your wedding bed can be a stage. Your bishop can profit from your sins while condemning others. Your doctor can prescribe pleasure while your priest condemns it. Your choices in love can lead to exile, ruin, or death. But amidst the horror, something familiar lingers. Performance anxiety, desire for satisfaction, desperation to control fertility, obsession with love, the cruelty of social judgment. These are not medieval problems. They are universal. Today, our surveillance is digital, not physical. Our punishments are hashtags, not whips. Our love potions are dating apps, not graveyard rituals. The stage has changed, but the play remains. So the next time you swipe on a dating app, complain about wedding stress, or feel the sting of public embarrassment, remember at least you are not being examined in a courthouse or watched by nobles on your wedding night or forced to drink unsafe potions to prevent pregnancy or paraded through the streets with a rope tied around your waist. Medieval intimacy was madness. Modern intimacy may be awkward, but by comparison, it's paradise.